recently I've read a book from an American political scientist that's actually from the left wing. He has written a book which shows quite clearly what kind of characteristics a totalitarian state has. And funny enough, if you walk through this book, you can see that Germany pretty much checks all the boxes. Let's start with the first and most important characteristics of a totalitarian state, and that is that the government and the whole structure of the state is based on lies. Now, to make this clear from the start, obviously Germany isn't a totalitarian state yet, but we're moving towards one if we're not careful. We can see this that with the fact that our chancellor entered into the position with a controversy where he lied, and the whole German population knows he lied. So it was about the fact that he had conversation with corrupt companies. And when he was asked what the content of those conversations were about, he said that he cannot remember. And obviously that isn't the truth. Everybody in Germany knows this isn't the truth. So we have a chancellor that has no hesitation about lying in important matters. That's the first thing. The next characteristic of a totalitarian state is that freedom of speech is restricted. And there's been a controversy in the last couple of weeks, and rightly so, because our ministry of the Innenministerium, meaning the Ministry of Internal State, which is responsible for security, has presented a draft of a law which has the name Demokratiefördergesetz, which means support of democracy law, more or less. Ironically, this law does actually the opposite. So it's an inversion of morals, because what this law basically says is that on social media, there should be a monitoring with the German Secret Service, a cooperation of dangerous thought processes and dangerous ideologies within the country, within the population, and once they've been identified, they can be suppressed with force of the police, force of government, and of course the government makes the choice what is appropriate to say and what isn't. And the scary thing about this is that this is not only about what you say anymore, this is about controlling thought processes. If you look at the book George Orwell 1984, they actually had the so-called thought police in this book, where they actually had the same responsibility. They were there to monitor the thought process within the population, and if there is dangerous anti-government thought processes going on, those are to be eliminated and to be suppressed. So making a law that's pretty much copied from George Orwell's book cannot be a good idea, in my opinion. And we have it at this point, even people within the parliament, which are usually following everything the government says, even they are criticizing this law as anti-democratic. And at this point, everybody should be highly alarmed about this, because I can promise you this law is highly anti-democratic and very, very dangerous. Okay, the next part is that, of course, there is a war on opposing parties. This is literally cited from the book On Tyranny from a leftist political scientist. He said that in every tyranny there's going to be a war on the opposition, and everybody who's criticizing the government, who stands for something different, is called an extremist. Now, everybody in Germany knows this has been going on in more and more extreme ways over the last couple of years. No matter where you stand, if you say something against the government, you will be seen as an extremist. They will usually put you in the right wing, right extremist part of the spectrum, which is obviously ridiculous, because you need to have proof to put somebody in that category, and they usually do this nowadays without any proof. They just put you in that category. And the problem with that is also that you cannot distinguish the real right-wing extremists from the normal conservatives anymore. Those are actually the biggest parts why our democracy is at threat in Germany. Of course, there's also the transgender law that I talked about previously, where the government enforces us to use gender-neutral language now. So if I reveal the original gender of a transgender person, even if it's the correct gender, I can be fined with up to 10,000 euros for using biologically correct language. I can only say to anybody in Germany, be careful when following these left-wing ideologies, because they're becoming very totalitarian at this point, and the threat to democracy at this point is much more realistic from the left than it is from the right.